Reading book on pausing. Written by me, Eric Wadell. First draft, August 2025. Chapter 6. Sleep Situation. Personal story. When I was 16, my grandmother passed away from old age. We had lived together in the same house for all my life. And every day we would spend time together, watching TV, cooking, everyday things like that. So losing her was a difficult thing. She used to always be there, and then she no longer was. There was then instead an empty space where she used to be. There was unpredictability where her predictability used to be. I could not fall asleep at nights. I just laid there, trying to fall asleep, but cursing that I could not. I laid there awake every night for a couple of months. It was fatiguing. I could not think straight during the days. Learning things at school felt secondary or distant. My grandmother had been a person of authority. She would look you in the eye with a steady sense of contact. But without her, that steady sense of hers had given way to new and empty hours of not being able to fall asleep. I must have thought every thought that there is during those long nights. I must have covered it all, or so it seemed to me at the time. Today, 20 years later, my grandmother's passing and my long nights of not falling asleep appear somewhat different to me. Today, I think a few additional things about it all, beyond the sheer difficulty of it. I think that my grandmother would have been happy to know that I had such trouble falling asleep for months after her passing away. It meant that her presence had mattered greatly. I also think that something changed inside of me during those nights. When she was still alive, I had been her grandchild, and she would be the one looking me in the eye. When she was no longer alive, something new would have to do the looking. Someone new would have to do the looking, and that someone would now be me. The situation. Sleep is about everything related to our sleep. Falling asleep, sleeping and dreaming, and waking up. Every one of us has a personal relationship to our sleep. Every single day we feel a certain way about it, and it changes throughout life as well. During some period of time, we sleep in one way, and during another period, we sleep in another way. We fall asleep quickly, or we lay awake for hours. We sleep heavy, dreamless sleep, or we dream whole novels worth of dreams. We wake up feeling refreshed, or we wake up feeling cobwebby and still half asleep. Some people do not think about the way they sleep, and others find inspiration in it. Either way, we can pause in our sleep situation. We can pause when going to sleep. We lay there or sit and take a second or two, recognizing that we are waiting for sleep to come. We can feel how we are falling asleep. It is like going from here to there. We can also pause when we are waking up. We lay there becoming aware that we are in fact awake. We can take a second or two, laying still, knowing that we have come from there back to here. We can even pause when we are sleeping in our dreams. We are still someone in our dreams, and we still do things there as we are doing things when we are awake. So we can pause in our dreams as well, if we want to. Sleep goal, predictability. When thinking of a goal here, we are thinking of it as a kind of deeper logic. The goal is like a principle ordering the situation for us so that we can experience it with reassurance. The goal for our sleep situation is predictability. We all enjoy predictability. We all want it. We make many of our decisions in life so that we can have more of it. To talk about predictability, we talk about the two truths in life that we are the most sure of. There are two things in life that we can always count on, because we know from experience that they are absolutely predictable. The first is that the sun is rising once a day and setting once a day. The second is that the Earth's gravity is always keeping us firmly in place on the ground. When we combine these two truths that we by our own experience know to be absolute, what do we get? We get sleep. Once a day when the sun is setting, our body wants to lay down and rest on the ground, kept in place by gravity. And also once a day when the sun is rising, our body wants to stand up and do things. So sleep is what we have in between the absolute predictability of the sun and the earth, and the unpredictability of our own personal life. Sleep is our way of reconciling the predictability of sun and earth with the unpredictability of ourselves. As we live our lives, things always change, and we go back and forth from more and less predictability. With every change in relative predictability, our sleep situation also changes. Predictability and sleep are like mirror images of one another. Or, like we think of it in terms of pausing, sleep is our situation and predictability is our goal. Our goal is to get to know predictability, not to always have it. Our goal is to study its changes from more to less and from less to more. We might say things are turning more unpredictable now, so sleep is bound to feel somewhat different as well. Our falling asleep may change back and forth between quick and slow. Our sleep may change between dreamless and full of dreams, and our waking up may change between feeling refreshed and feeling slow to wake up. This is all part of how we experience the predictability in our life, or the lack thereof. We pause for a second or two and recognize the change in predictability. In the rest of the chapter, we will look at 3 specific skills that we can learn to get a more direct sense of this. They are called guard, fog, and mourning. Spend time with the ones you like and spend less time with the ones you care less for. Guard. During our day, we meet with many people and things. It demands that we are alert and ready to act and react accordingly to what we have in front of us. At some points during our day, we come across someone or something that does not have the best of intentions for us. So we must raise our emotional guard, or our guard raises itself for us. We become apprehensive. Sometimes there are so many elements to be on our guard towards that our guard is more or less constantly raised. And when that is the case, being guarded can become our common daytime state of mind. When being guarded becomes common enough for us, we even forget that we are guarded. And we also forget what it felt like not to be guarded. So, we go about our guarded day, and then it comes to an end, and it is time to go to sleep. But we cannot fall asleep. We lay there, awake for a long time, with thoughts spinning. Why can't I fall asleep? We think to ourselves. This is when we make use of our specific skill, guard. It is simple and direct. As we are laying there, not falling asleep, we pause and say inside ourselves or out loud, my guard is up. That's it. Recognizing that our guard is indeed up changes how we perceive ourselves laying there. It changes our attitude towards ourselves from being harsh and tense to being realistic and easing up. This does not always lead to us falling asleep straight away, although sometimes it does. But it does lead to us gaining a sense of rest, and rest is sometimes what we need, even more than sleep. Sometimes what we need, or even want, is to lay awake thinking, but in a way that does not feel like any effort or like any strain. Pausing and then saying, my guard is up, grants us that restful version of laying awake. It is pleasant. A nice extra consequence of specific skill guard is that often as we are laying there restfully awake, our thoughts find smarter ways. I am not sure how this works, but it seems to open up something for us. Fog. Every time we fall asleep, we pass through a foggy state of mind. And every time we wake up, we pass through a foggy state of mind as well. Most of the time, we perhaps do not think too much about it. We simply fall asleep and wake up, and that was that. But at other times we may feel deeply affected by it. Specific skill fog is when we develop a personal relationship to this going back and forth between sleep and wakefulness. It would seem that how we feel about our life and ourselves is more apparent to us during this foggy state of mind, it would seem that we are more open. This is rather mysterious as to how it is working, but you might get some hunch about what I am trying to say. When we are in deep sleep, we do not think anything about it because we are in deep sleep. And when we are fully awake, we have maybe too much to think about our life because there is so much that needs to get done. But when we are going between sleep and being awake, we have some time to actually get a sense of what we are doing in life. So it is interesting to pause here for a second or two. As we are falling asleep, we pause, and there we are, tangible. Not the complete lack of awareness, but not overthinking either. We are in this wise intermediary state. We know things because we personally know them, not because they have been told to us. As we are waking up, we pause, and there we are again, tangible. With some practice, this becomes more and more interesting. It feels rather odd in the beginning, but evolves to feel essential when we have done it for some time. Specific skill fog evolves over time to become a source of inspiration. We naturally become more curious about ourselves. Some things that have eluded us will fall into place, and other things we have never thought about will surprise us. Specific skill fog is a rather bold undertaking, but rewarding. Morning. Every day we have things to get done. Every day we have expectations placed upon us as to who we are supposed to be. But during our mornings, it can take some time and effort to reconcile ourselves with those expectations. It can take some time and effort to reconcile who we are supposed to be during our day with how we felt about ourselves in our dreams or in our fog waking up. Specific skill morning is about making a predictable morning routine for ourselves. And with such a predictable routine, we are able to let go of our sleep and face our day with more certainty. One part of specific skill morning is to have most things be the same during the first hour or so upon waking up. It is about creating predictability. When we know our first hour to be highly predictable, we will be able to let go of the unpredictability we might have felt during our nighttime dreaming. When we know our first hour to be highly predictable, the unpredictability of our nighttime dreaming will not feel as threatening to us, because we know that we will have some time to deal with it upon waking up, without being interrupted. Another part of specific skill morning is to give ourselves a sense of safety upon waking up. Some dreams that we dream are downright scary, so naturally we might feel fragile upon waking up. If we need to be alone the first hour upon waking up, then that is what we create a routine for. If we need something else, then that is what we do. Specific skill morning is also our first pause of the day. And since it is the first pause of our day, it becomes like a reference point to all other pauses during our day. How we feel about ourselves during our first pause is our starting point in centering ourselves. We pause and get a sense of any unpredictability we might have felt during the night. We pause and get a sense of the predictability we want for our day. Any and every expectation we might place upon ourselves becomes more clear and honest once we have made that first pause of the day. It makes it easier to see which expectations that have meaningful purposes and which ones that do